All right, here we go.
you.
Yeah.
All right, let me get this screen share. Let me know if this works. Can you see my presentation? Is that
Yes.
coming through? Cool. So thank you. And just my view is a little different here. So just making sure my stupid sidebar is not.
There we go. Okay, now it's good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So thanks everyone for joining us. My name's Tiffany Deal. I'm a consultant here at Etumos. I've been in the consulting game about 3 years now. And I've done everything from marketing operations. I've run marketing teams as a communications director. I've kind of run the gamut of marketing jobs, if you will. And one of the things that I brought to my team, which is a team of consultants, is some of the frameworks and some of the ways that we can, up level our communication strategies and some of the common things that consultants say that we can use to get our point across more clearly, speak with more authority, and have that professionalism that we know we all want to have. So the purpose of this, frankly, is in our consulting group, we have frameworks for common Marketo processes. If you want a life cycle, I have a very tried and true way to build you a life cycle within Marketo, but why not have some of those common communication frameworks for scenarios that we're seeing all the time? And again, just to reiterate, the purpose here is by having these frameworks or these communication shortcuts, it can help boost our personal confidence. It can help our professionalism under pressure, because I know we're often dealing with very frustrating situations, or we're putting out fires, or we're dealing with things that have a lot of urgency, and sometimes feelings and stakeholders can be difficult to communicate with. So we want to keep that professionalism. And then the stakeholders, our managers, if you're in consulting, it's our clients. We want them to be satisfied with how we're presenting and how we're communicating with them. What we absolutely don't want, and this is not a script for you to sound like a robot. So I know we all throw SDRs and BDRs and some of the outbound salespeople with their pitch decks and their scripting under the bus here, but we don't want to sound like a robot. But having some of these phrases and turns of phrase in the back of our head will help us more quickly come to those phrases will come to us more quickly in these situations. And we just don't want to sound dumb or, sound in a way that we don't want to present ourselves in those situations. So I know when you hear the word consultant, everyone is always thinking, man, they have a lot of jargon. There's a lot of catchphrases. So here's my first question to the audience is, how many consulting catchphrases have you heard before? Like, throw them in the chat. Let's see what it is that you think that we're going to say to you in our consulting roles. Amanda, do you want to read some of them out loud? There's some good ones.
Yes. Let's table this and discuss offline. From Rico. I put in myself, it depends. That's a go-to.
Yeah, oh yeah,
circle back. Great question. Yeah.
Great response, Billy. I really like where you're thinking on that. I tried to capture a lot of them. I'm actually a linguist at heart, so I find these to be so fascinating. There's a time and a place for these, and the reason these exist is because they are shortcuts. They are quick ways to get a point across that in our business context is going to be well received. My favorite new one that I added is, I'm not sure the juice is worth the squeeze. That's talking about like technical debt and whether or not we want to move forward. But I've heard all of these and more. So if you have any additional ones, I'd love to add them to our dictionary here. But the purpose of this presentation here is let's get more specific. A lot of these are very generic, sometimes not, but they're very generic and overused. So let's get more specific. Here's some common situations I come across as a consultant. However, I think whether you're a consultant, whether you're an independent contributor, or whether you're part of a team, these are situations we see in business context all the time. So whether it's requesting clarification or correcting an error, we're going to go through each of these and talk about like the common situation specifically as it pertains to MOPs and some context there, and then some of the ways or turns of phrases we can use. So I am a child of the 80s and 90s, so you'll see a little bit of a theme here. So I created some sample scenarios that we can work through. So we've all heard this before. Marketo isn't working. And if we were the awkward consultant, I'd be like, yo, if there's a problem, I'll solve it. But that doesn't really say anything and it doesn't do anything for them. So this is a scenario where we need to request more clarification. Does anyone have any context here? Or actually, I'll give you some of this and I'd love to hear your feedback on what other things we can use to say here, because we'll definitely collect this and build on this. So a couple of turns of phrase. This is what I think you're saying. Can you confirm I'm on the same page? If you don't understand what they're saying, this isn't clicking. Can we look at this together? Another one I've heard recently, as this morning actually, was, can I play that back so that I make sure I understand what I'm hearing? So I think there's lots of different ways to do this, and we can't just come in with full confidence. Yeah, I'll solve it, whatever it is. Let's get more details. Let's understand what the actual ask here is. So it looks like Billy has some fun ones in the chat. He's looking at, let's do a Vulcan mind meld. Sales guy, did he really said that on every call? That's, live long and prosper. We'll work on that.
I was not getting it until you said live long and prosper.
Yeah, I guess if you don't have a Trekkie on the phone, it's not
Right.
it's not as useful, but that's great. I love finding those people. They're always my friends for life, the nerds on the sales floor. Let's look at some more scenarios. So here we have, we're always going to get those Monday morning quarterbacks or the people who think they know MOPs and they don't. Here's a good one. Sales wants me to send everyone in our database an email every day. It's drip nurture turn torture. Courtney Love is going to steer us the wrong way. We need to learn how to say no. But there's more eloquent ways to say this, right? Like, we're not just going to say, hell no. We're not going to just, throw their ideas out there. We can also request some clarification and see what the immediate need is. But we can also ask additional questions here. So, hey, I don't believe that's the best solution for your problem. Once we've identified the problem, here's a recommendation. I always like to say no, but how about this? Or no, let's get to what is really going to solve the problem. Here I like this. Somehow I managed to put a nice acronym here together. So spaced. And as consultants or just as business, strong business people, we're going to align around, is the solution scalable? What's the cost impact? Data management from a MOPS perspective is a huge one for us. Is it going to keep our data in alignment where we need it to be? Is that anyone else had any bad ideas that they've just had to say no to, or what's a really bad idea you've had to say no to recently? Amanda, while we're waiting, have you had anyone this week?
Yes. Well, it might not be like the worst idea and it comes from a good spot, but like we want all of our maintenance emails to send from Marketo, like our product maintenance emails. Yeah, not the best idea. So my response is I don't like it. Use in product notifications. If you have it, that's the way to go. So you know you're actually reaching the users that are in the product. So that's a scenario that came to mind. Rico has one too. Yeah, being measured and honest in a response, not feeling pressure to give a response immediately when on a call. Yeah, that is a good point. Taking them as they come.
That's a really
Impossible.
good point.
Yeah.
This is a presentation about what to say, but sometimes the best answer is let me get back to you on that, or let me take some time. We don't always have to have an answer immediately. I know those of us who are people pleasers are very quick to try to have that answer immediately because we feel value in that. But I do think that it's important to be honest and make sure that we're getting the right answer in front of the people who are asking the questions. And looks like Billy said earlier this week, a coworker said to look back at the original scope of the project when the client wanted to know all the possibilities of the tool. Yeah. So scope creep. This is bad ideas for a consultant are the seeds of scope creep on so many different levels. So pulling people back to reality is a huge one. Another common scenario here is pushback. I can't believe how many times I've put a solution in front of a client or put a solution out there and they said, no way, Jose, or I'm not sure. Or even better, they want to re-solution and change everything. And Left Eye here from TLC is going to say, don't go chase waterfalls. But what we're going to say is, we're going to ask for clarification, but we're going to ask it specifically, like, let's hear them out. Let's validate their concerns and hear them and make sure that they're being considered in your proposed solution. Making sure you're aligned. I've definitely had situations where I said, hey, this is going to fix all our problems. And it was completely, going to not fix one of the problems that they hadn't listed. So sometimes the problem that you're solving for may not have been communicated clearly enough by the client or the stakeholder. So we want to go back and get additional considerations or anything that's changed. Enrico, I absolutely did not plan on mentioning scope creep in TLC, but I love it. And I'm going to have to use that if I do this presentation again, for sure. That's a great one. Anything else? I think pushback is probably one of the things as a people pleaser, as someone who really wants to do a good job, managing pushback is one of the hardest and most uncomfortable situations. So not saying no and not just digging in, but hearing someone out. Sometimes they just want their emotions to be validated because they don't like change or they don't like something that's different. So just hearing them out and walking it through sometimes will resolve it and you don't have to do anything else. Like, it's just like, well, let's walk through your concerns and talk about them. And once you talk about them, they're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense now. So that can really help move your meeting forward. Another one, man, saying no. This is all over the place, but saying no lets us say yes to the right things. And we want to make sure that we're protecting our time and our timelines for the things that matter and are important, and that we're not being tasked with things that aren't in our wheelhouse, that aren't our responsibility, or just aren't going to meet our goals or OKRs for the quarter or the year. So Johnny Reznick, little Goo Goo Dolls reference, we're gonna you got to let them know who you are. You got to let them know that, hey, I'm your MOPs person. I'm here for your Marketo. I am not a web dev. But if you want a form, I got that. So instead, we're going to say, hey, this is out of scope. As a consultant, we say this is out of scope. If I was in-house, I would say, hey, this isn't in my wheelhouse, or this isn't really an area of which I am comfortable managing, or, you know, this doesn't meet my area of expertise. So we can frame some of these depending on whether you're consulting or whether you're just the managing partner in the organization. Direct them elsewhere, like, you know, use some business, Tai Chi, Kung Fu, like pull them to the person who they need to speak to instead. And sometimes just pointing them in the right direction really helps. Boundary setting is so important regardless of where you are in an organization, and setting your working days and hours are really important. So I encourage everyone to say, hey, you know, that's outside of my working days or hours. That's not something I can accommodate. Again, say no, but here's what I will say yes to. And so I'd be happy to accommodate during those times. Here's my question to the audience. We'll see if we get anything good. What's the hardest thing you've had to say no to, or what's the weirdest thing you've had to say no to? I have definitely, as per the example, had to tell people no, I couldn't build a website. I've had to say no to meetings at 3 a.m. My time, I've had to say no to quite a few things. Anissa, it looks like your old box thinks you can still give you a project. You're gonna have to give us some context on that.
I can give context if y'all want.
Yeah.
So I was on a customer marketing department within the same organization, and that got kind of dissolved and restructured. So I moved to our event marketing department. And so my boss stayed with the company, but I moved under a different manager. So he was just still slack me to like support him on different things that he could do himself. So I just had to loop in my current boss and be like, hey, you know, I'll do a different name. Like Bob is still giving me work. Can you tell me how to manage this? And so she'd be like, anytime he wants you to do a project, just loop me in on the email thread. And then I'll say like, hey, Anissa's bandwidth doesn't support this, you know, something like that. So definitely an awkward no, because I used to report to that person.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's a really important example. Getting air cover from your manager when your no isn't being heard, or you're not getting enough of a positive response from the other person is really crucial. So I know our team, you know, if I say no, or if I have to set boundaries and they're not being respected, I will escalate that. And I have a team and a management structure that will get my back. And that's so important in your, you know, management relationship wherever you are. So great example. I'm glad your manager had your back.
Oh yeah, she's been great.
Awesome. Taking back control of the meeting. We have all been on meetings that have just gone on and on and on. And hopefully this one won't. I actually just did a time check. I think we're good, right? Or we, okay, cool. I know we're talking life cycle, but have you seen our scoring? Or I'm really guilty about talking about baseball or sports a little too long, or just getting really sidetracked with something that isn't the core purpose of the meeting and trying to keep everyone on track. So man, Billy Joe, he's got another turning point. We're just going off in the distance, little Green Day. Enrico, you're cracking me up here. Here's what we're going to say instead. This is a great discussion, but let me jump in real quick. I know we hate to interrupt people, but we definitely sometimes have to, and that's a really professional way to do it. It's like, hey, this is great. Let me jump in. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Let's park that discussion. So parking lots are your best friend, especially if you have a group or a work group that is keen on idea generation and it becomes a distraction. Creating a parking lot and saying, hey, let's put that in the parking lot. Let's refocus on, our current goal or our current meeting topic and agenda so that we can make sure, we're on time and we use this time for what we said we want to. Backlogs as well is a good parking lot move. And just saying, moving forward, like, let's go, it's a moving forward sounds awkward on paper, but when you use it, it's a subtle cue to everyone in the room that, hey, you're attempting to get us back on track. And I like that phrase a lot because it's not offensive. It doesn't call anyone out. It's not like, hey, I need you to stop. It's just like, moving forward, let's go. Or you can say something like back to the agenda, or let's take a look here. So these are things that definitely get you back on track and help you move along on your meeting purpose, really. Anyone have anything that's just like completely sidelined a meeting here? Any interesting stories? Enrico says, oh, back to my Green Day reference, we have to tell the offender that they're dookie. All right, got some 90s fans in the house.
While people are typing in chat, yeah, I think a lot of times, specifically in marketing operations, this might even come up like on a task, not necessarily a meeting, but you might like pull a report or something like that. And then they just keep diving in deeper and question after question after question. And I think when that happens, we have to, not to use the phrases that we just roasted, but really like taking it, back a level and just being like, is this really what we should be spending our time on? Should we get someone else into the conversation that could dig into that a little bit deeper, offering up something alternatively, but kind of setting your boundary of like, I'm not going to look into this every day, pretty much. Like we just don't have time to troubleshoot every little thing without there being an overarching purpose or goal. So I think that's like a really common scenario with all MOPs. Everyone always just goes into a rabbit hole and you got to pull them back out.
Yeah, Enrico noted that pre-meeting preparation has been a really good method to avoid this, and I 100% agree. I start all of my meetings, even if it's just 3 bullet points with an agenda, so that we can stay focused on what it is we're trying to accomplish. And if there are specific questions I need answered, I will have those written down so they're not just in my head and I'm not like, oh, and then that way we can focus on that. And then once you have everything and all your bullet points and your questions are taken care of, then you can have a casual conversation or enjoy some extra time. Looks like.
Mark, you're not muted. I'll mute him if I can. I'm going to try.
He got it.
Oh, there we go. Thanks, Mark.
Correcting an error. I actually had someone say this to me about a year ago. They said, it doesn't matter what marketing automation platform I get, Marketo, Pardot, HubSpot, they're all the same. And I have a quick response that keeps me from blurting out. I have no poker face. So I have a quick response. That's my go-to when people say just like really like frustrating things, which is, well, that's an opinion. That's a thought. That's an idea. That's a decision. I just note it and then move on, because otherwise my mouth will get me in trouble. So Gwen Stefani said it best, just don't speak. It hurts. So no doubt about that. We're going to say this instead. So I can see where that would seem to be the case. However, so these are all gentle corrections, especially when you have to correct someone else's mistake. Now, the other flip side of this is sometimes we make mistakes, right? And just owning up to that, being very honest. So my apologies, I misspoke. Let me clarify. Or things change on us all the time. And it's like, hey, previously I understood this, but now what you're telling me is, 1, 2, 3. And now I understand this to be the case. So if we have to resolution or shift our previous recommendations or our previous build or our previous whatever we're doing, just say, hey, like, this was the understanding, there's new information, so we want to change that. And just being open and transparent, but clarity is key. And so this one is kind of a fun one because it goes both ways. You either sometimes gently correct, or sometimes you have to correct yourself and be transparent about it. And I find that no one expects you truly to be perfect but yourself. I think we put that on ourselves more than anyone else. And so you will get a lot of reputation points in your organization or with your clients by just being transparent and saying, hey, I made a mistake, but here's how I fixed it. Here's where I think we should go from here, etc. Have you made any bad mistakes, Amanda, that you've had to call yourself out on?
Yes.
I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm not going to make anyone else. If anyone else has any mistakes they want to laugh about, we can talk about it, but I'm going to put Amanda on the spot.
Oh, yes. Yeah, most recently I updated a pause campaign to remove a filter. It no longer applied. I did not remove it correctly. I think I switched it to like is not. So basically it was like pausing everyone in a nurture. It's very embarrassing too when you've had like a lot of experience, but again, as Tiffany said, like you're way harder on yourself than other people are. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, and I think like what I did was just outline like I messed up. I made this error. Here's how I fixed it. Here's how I reverted people back. So not just fixing it to prevent it from stopping in the future, but also kind of remediating your actual error. And then here's what we can do to prevent it in the future. Like I'll actually get someone to QA my stuff. Even small little changes that need to happen quickly. We need to schedule time to have someone QA it, right? So I think delivering it like that, like I messed up, but here's the plan. They feel so much better about it that like any time, like it's not going to be hidden from them ever because you've admitted to it and they know they can trust you moving forward because you admit your mistakes.
That trust is so crucial to your relationships, whether you're a consultant or in-house, is so crucial because when people can trust you, they just have that confidence in you to do the right thing and to be transparent about it. We had some great ones in chat. Shared screens and side slacking is a PR nightmare. I have seen the stories I have seen. I highly recommend not using Slack to have those side conversations. Find another vehicle if you need to get those conversations out. I will be honest, the other day I totally shared some shoes I was looking at to buy my dad on the wrong screen. So I don't do anything inappropriate, but I got some good opinions on some purple shoes I got my dad for his birthday because of that one. And then I just put out a small fire, XYZ happened, and this is how I fixed address it. Anissa, that's a great one. We put out fire. I feel like we're firefighters. I think that should be in our job title somewhere, MOPs expert and aficionado and firefighter. That's great. I'll definitely add that to our Slack. We talked about this one a little bit earlier, but so I won't spend too much here, but we aren't expected to have an immediate answer. Your stakeholders will trust you so much by saying, hey, this is a great question, let me think about it. But I got I'll give some major points if you get the Shabadoinkle reference, but we're going to connect this new Shabadoinkle integration with Marketo and Salesforce. And man, Coolio, rest in peace, my friend. In order to be a professional, first you got to be a beginner, but if you keep on pushing, you got to be a winner. Say this instead. Say this instead. That's a great question. Let me do some research and get back to you. I don't have any direct experience. It's okay to say, hey, I'm not the expert on all things marketing technology. I don't have the documentation for every MarTech tool memorized. I think we have maybe a couple of consultants who do on our bench, but that is definitely not me. You know, take it back to your team if you have additional resources or you want to do some research. People will respect you for providing a complete and a well-formed solution or answer to a question over a time, like a quick fire response. And just be clear on how long it is you're going to take. I think setting timeline expectations like, hey, I'll get you this by the end of the day. I'll get you this answer by end of week, or I need some more time. Just being clear with the time you need to take, just pushing it off and not setting that timeline expectation. I know I tend to forget things. So this is definitely something that can get you in trouble if you don't set that expectation and meet it with whomever you're doing that with. So those are all my scenarios. I do want to say confidence is contagious, but so is lack of confidence. Knowing that you know your stuff and knowing that you have the right language to use to communicate is so powerful. We did talk about, I'm going to blow through these really quickly because this is kind of a little bonus content. Talked about spoken frameworks, but there's also written ones and a couple of quick tips here. Brief is best. Bullet points, bold text, colored, highlighted text when you're sending an email. But I try to make sure we're focusing on the core points in email, and everything else can be discussion or at a later date. So timelines, progress status, scope, reference links, and I like to bold at the end of my emails, like these are the decisions that need to be made, and I will say who needs out, like at, or highlight who needs to make those decisions. Sometimes we have big problems and we need to send an email to kind of communicate it. Here's a 5 step process. You know, define the problem, define the business impact. So a lot of times we're writing these to CMOs or a VP of marketing, and we tell them the problem, we tell them everything we've done to fix the problem, and they have absolutely no idea what it means to them. So this is kind of the with them, what's in it for me. So what is the business impact? And the more you talk about business impact and how you're affecting that, it's going to up-level you in your position. People are going to see you as someone who sees the business as the most important goal and not just the task at hand. So definitely a huge tip there. Either propose a solution or outline any actions you've already taken in the results, and then request confirmation and agreement on next steps. And you said major issues, also 4B, mitigate risk or repeated incident. Yes, correct, good one. And then outlining a new project. Here's another one we do all the time. So I always try to give even a brief outline of every new project we have so that we can make sure we have that alignment up front, because we don't want to be like that earlier slide where we're like, hey, we're out of alignment, let's regroup. So we took it the overview. We talk about timeline, we work on sprints. We talk about possible blockers, so we know those up front, we thought about them. Any other requirements and any supporting links or documentation that people would need to do their own research or reference. And then finally, we all know that sometimes, as well as we scope our project or as well as we estimate how long something should take, you know, fires happen, our time gets divided, we have emergencies, or it just takes us longer and we misread the level of effort. So updating a timeline, you want, what is the project or objective? What are the blockers and next steps? What's the business impact? Again, there's that business impact. Like, what is missing launching this nurture program this week due to our business? And then what's the proposed updated timeline? And using these frameworks helps you clarify, because it's so easy to ramble. It's so easy to go on or bury some of the more important things in your emails, especially. So keeping it very brief and having those will really up-level your communication there. So that is my presentation. I really hope you all found this helpful. I think we'll share the slide deck so you'll have this as a reference. Definitely use it. We'll be updating it with some of the great solutions and feedback you guys gave us, and we can open up the floor to any questions or conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Tiffany.